please come to order. Please rise, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is that all? As customary, I'd like to have a moment of silence, and in your thoughts, could you please remember Mr. Roberts, Will Roberts. Willie was the custodian for this town hall for many, many years, and he passed away in October, so I just want to, in your thoughts, remember Willie. He was a great guy. Thank you. I need to announce that this meeting is being recorded and televised by our local cable company. Approval of bill and payroll warrants. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Accept correspondence in the read file. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Does anybody here wish to speak in public forum? That's something that's not on the agenda? Okay.
Well, we're on the agenda later now.
Okay. Right? Okay, we'll wait for the agenda. Okay, I need, we'll talk to you later. We'll get it all set. I need approval of meeting minutes for open session September 25th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I also need an approval for meeting minutes for open session October 30th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, scheduled events is act on the application of DFOPCO LLC, doing business as Dairy Farms, for a change in ownership in connection with the fuel storage license on the premise located at 210 Essex Street. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on it?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Does the old owners, have they paid up everything that they're supposed to have been paid up?
210 Essex Street is actually
Whitman Commerce.
Yeah.
17 condominiums.
Yeah.
And there is currently it's on. And there's currently a lien being assessed for sewer services in the amount of $30,000 and change. This is because at some point in time, when the septic system was dismembered,
Disassembled or?
crushed. The businesses there went on public sewer, but there's one meter for the entire complex, and they were not billed for sewer. This came up in a review, and it's going to result in apportionment of liens to each of the properties for the amounts that are owed. It goes back, I think, to 2007. So, and if you divide it up by the 17 units, it's a little more than 2,000 apiece. But it's something that was only recently determined, and I would suggest that we not hold the issuance of a transfer of license up because of this issue.
Can I comment on that? Ownership of the building.
You need to come up
Yep. Introduce yourself, please.
and state your name.
James Lagarde with DFOPCO LLC. Ownership of the building did not change. It's still the two Silvers that will own it under Silver Realty, operating with the Whitman Commerce Center. The business itself is the only thing that's changed. I am aware of the sewer bill as well, and the current CFO is working on getting that rectified. Okay?
Okay, the motion
Thank
calls for a change of ownership, though, Frank.
Well, it's technically a change of ownership because it's a different corporation.
Okay, all right. Answer your question? Any further questions? We've had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All set? You need to sign that when you get a chance, please. Okay, I need to make the announcement. Well, Frank, you're up. You might as well do it.
You're on a roll, go ahead.
No, go right ahead. You can do it.
This is the time of year when we remind people that there is an overnight parking ban in place for the town as it relates to the removal of snow. Any time that snow is falling on the streets or snow is blocking the streets,
Right now?
vehicles are not permitted to park overnight. So
Until December 1.
from I believe it's 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., any vehicle parked on the street during snow will be ticketed, and if it's impeding the removal of snow, will be removed, i.e. towed. So just a reminder for folks, we'll get it in the local paper. We don't want to make things more difficult for people than they are, but it does really pose a problem for clearing the streets in some cases.
Does that also include the town parking lot that is next to the White Church?
Yes, and that's posted.
Okay. And your
All right,
analysis of November 6th?
two other items.
Yeah.
Just some observations on the November 6th election. It was really an incredible turnout, over 4,000 people.
It's like 63%
Came
of the
out.
town? Yeah.
And that's in addition to the 2,000 people who voted early. Overall, things went pretty well. If there were one observation I'd make, it's that parking was an absolute disaster. And part of that can be attributed to the fact that employees, both town employees and election workers who are part-time town employees, parked in the town parking lot. That should not happen. And going forward, I recommend on any years that we have a state or national election, that parking in the town hall and in the front of the town hall be reserved for citizens to vote, not employees. And we can do what we've done in the past, which is to provide a parking area over by the police station and provide transportation with COA buses. I'm mentioning it now because it's fresh in my mind, and I'm going to make some notes and perhaps develop, after a discussion with the clerk and the other personnel, a recommendation for policy to that effect.
That's a good move.
And thirdly, I want to comment on the budget process. People have been submitting their budgets with indications as to what a 3% reduction and a 6% reduction would be, and that's to address the current levy limit and our current obligations. I have prepared, or I'm working on a comparison of budgets for the last 5 years in terms of what growth was, where it was, and identify some of the areas that we might want to look at. But this 3 and 6% across the board is not going to work. Anyone who's put together a business budget knows there are some areas you can cut, there are some areas you can't. Some of the budgets coming in reflect those cuts, but they can't be made. I mean, I've seen budgets that reflect a reduction in debt payment and some other utility payments that we have no choice but to make. So I mentioned to the Finance Committee chair tonight that I think we need to really get into the weeds on this and perhaps get a group together and start looking realistically at what a budget will look like with those cuts and where it's most likely those cuts will occur. And we need to be able to provide to the public a full assessment of what the circumstances are and what's needed. So we're working on that. I just wanted to update the board.
Well, there are some budgets that we basically have no control over. I mean, electricity, for the town, the lighting.
Well, fortunately, those are going to be areas where we're going to have some benefit.
Only because of the fact that.
With net metering and with the
Yeah.
conversion to LED lights, we're going to have significant reductions in those budgets. What we're not going to see reduced are things like Plymouth County,
Right.
our health and life insurance, our debt payments, our gas utilities, and there are others.
Obligations.
Yeah, and we have contractual obligations that will require us to work on that.
All right, and if we have a tough winter, I know we can deficit spend, but it's still something we have to
Well,
pay for.
whatever we spend goes on the recap sheet.
Right,
in
but we
June.
still have to pay for it, and that just adds to situation next year, in next year's budget.
So I would be remiss not to point out that while we're working on this, there is still an elephant in the room. And I think we need to step up the pace. I had hoped that we would be talking very specifically by the end of December. When it doesn't look like we'll be there, but we need to be.
We don't have a choice but to be there by the end of December.
And that will bring us into budget review, Mr. Lambiase.
Yep.
You're up.
Frank summed it up pretty good there. We're in a heap load of trouble, maybe, I don't know. Frank has informed they have reviewed the policies that I put forth to the committee. They've made some markups, so I'm gonna try and hook up with Frank on Monday and take a look at them. We'll further work them. I think it's probably time, and maybe this is a conversation, as you've just discussed, that we call that committee back together and we get together and we have a more in-depth discussion on what Frank's just talked about. I have been informed and given a schedule from Finance Committee. I know that they're meeting with the chief next week, I believe, and start looking over his budget, and they've invited me, which I'll participate in. So if anybody hasn't been contacted, if they're liaison and they want to meet up with their group as they go through the budget process, now's the time to get that together. So that's where we're at. I think Frank's right. We have to get in front of this. The purpose of asking for the 3% and the 6% budget from everybody was to get that exercise going and get them to realize that it's going to be deep and meaningful cuts if we have to make them, and we have to get everybody's head wrapped around what that is going to look like if we want people to understand that we may be, or most likely will be, looking for some sort of operational override. So that is that.
Not good news, I guess. Huh?
No.
Frank, on the update on the community assessment survey, I know
Yes.
for myself, I've done mine online, but I did receive one in the mail. I said to my wife, here you go.
We currently, as of yesterday, I believe we received 400 and,
Good.
I want to say 426, but I'm not, it's something over 400. And they're all electronic because the mail just went out
Yeah.
the last couple of
Just
days.
got mine today.
So it's encouraging to know that just from social media and promoting on the website, we've got over 400 people responding. Hopefully, they won't be the same 400 sending in.
I only did
They've
one.
changed their mind after watching this broadcast.
But,
I know.
but it's exciting to think that they've kicked off this well, and we should have some feedback at our next meeting.
Excellent.
Do you know how many were mailed out?
Over 4,000 every household.
Right. So you probably got one, so I do yours online and have Lonnie do hers by mail, or whatever.
And of course, people are not limited to one response per household. If people in the household want to respond, they can make copies of it, they can get copies from the library, or they can go online and do it. The only thing that you won't be able to do effectively is share a computer, because the IP address is the filter to make sure
You only go
that
for
you're not
once.
responding more than once.
Yeah, I know, that's why I said to my wife, I did it on the computer, you do it.
And the other thing I really want to emphasize is there are no names and addresses on
Right.
these things. And the QR code and the N code that's on the document is not an identifier. We don't know who was mailed that document with that number on it. That number is simply a means to make sure that each response is individual. So please, there's no tracking on this.
Excellent.
This is the one instance where vote early and often is a good thing.
Not by the same person. Okay, liaison reports. Brian?
I would just like to let everybody know that I was honored to march in the Veterans Day Parade last Sunday with Mr. Salvucci, State Rep Jeff Deal, and State Rep-elect Allison Sullivan. And we represented Whitman well, and it was an honor to be part of it. And at the collation, we were sitting around and they brought the awards up, and it seemed like repeatedly Whitman was getting some award for something. So I asked the veterans agent, Tom, if he would like to come down and at least give us a little report about the day and how Whitman did well, and explain a little about what's going on.
Thank you for the invitation, Brian. I appreciate that. Whitman did represent well this year. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Tom McCarthy. I'm the Director of Veterans Services for the Abington-Whitman District. Whitman did really well this year. The fire department's honor guard won first place.
Yeah. Very good job.
The police department's honor guard won third place. Scott, if you could... Sure.
There you go.
Thank you. It was nice It was nice not to have Plymouth County Sheriff's Department in the honor guard this year. It gave everybody else a chance. Whitman Hanson Band won first place for the band performances. Whitman Hanson Majorettes won third place. We really did well this year in Whitman. It was a good parade, kind of spread out again.
Right.
The front end wasn't slowed down like they were supposed to, but we had great participation, good weather. A lot of folks came out and cheered us on and showed their respect to all of our veterans. So we appreciate you for being there, and thank you very much. We had a great parade. We are going to make some changes going forward. We're going to form a Veterans Day Parade Committee.
Good.
Nice.
So we will have the same people organizing the parade each year. We had a couple of issues with people arriving to meetings on time to prepare for the parade, and caused a few issues. So we've decided to do something similar that Rockland does and use the same people to, it's a footprint every year, the same participants, with the exception of 2 of the professional bands no longer exist. So we had 1 band this year, and the high school bands really augmented that section of the parade.
One thing I noticed, both towns of Abington and Rockland have a very long parade route. Whitman doesn't. I'm wondering if there is a way we may look at the aesthetics of Whitman and maybe do something a little bit different to show off the entire town, both, main streets.
Right,
somehow.
that's something that we discussed after last year, the parade 2 years ago here in Whitman. The parade route was very short.
Yeah.
The front end of the parade was finishing before the tail end of the parade was getting moving.
Right.
What we want to do as form the committee so that each post won't have, that hosts the parade, won't have say-so over where the parade will end. We want to make it longer, and we want to end at the VFW every year, even if the Legion is hosting the event after the parade, people can park over there at the VFW and get to the parade and get in their cars and travel back to the Legion when they host the festivities after the parade. I agree with you. It was very, very short the last 2 years ago when we had the parade here.
Just a suggestion.
We had great turnout for that parade,
Right.
and I think we could have fit some more spectators in if we had a longer route.
Right.
And we discussed that right after the parade in our wrap-up meeting, that it should be a longer, it should be more than a mile,
Right, agreed.
definitely.
Okay,
Excellent.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate.
One other
what the-
reminder,
Yeah,
the Veterans Parade is a tri-town event, and it's in one of the 3 towns each year, and next Veterans Day it will be hosted in Whitman.
nice, nice. Well, I appreciate all the work you do for all the veterans in both towns. It's, we can't do enough for them, so I appreciate everything you've done.
I just want to bring you up to speed on one other event that we did have happen this year was at the Old Weymouth Naval Air Station. The towns of Abington, Rockland, and Weymouth hosted the Vietnam Wall That Heals.
I was there.
It's the largest version that's out on tour right now, 375 feet long. It's a 3/4 scale. I spent many hours in meetings on every Thursday night till 10 o'clock, 6:30 to 10 o'clock preparing for this. We did a lot of fundraising. And we used the Braintree Weymouth Eagles 503C as our fundraiser, as our nonprofit to fundraise through them. They basically hosted us, all our meetings and everything. We ended up with about $20,000 left over in fundraising money, and we're going to spend that down by giving it back to the veterans organizations within Abington, Rockland, Weymouth, and we included Whitman because Whitman is a district with Abington, and I explained that to them at all of our meetings and folks that needed to know about it, that any veterans organization within the 4 communities are
And the
eligible.
escorts came from Whitman.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Actually, the
we
American
had-
Legion was the honor guard there.
right,
Infidels.
and they did a fantastic job.
Yes.
We had great participation from everybody around. As far away, we had a couple of units come up from Rhode Island to support us too. The Marine Corps League doing overnight security out of Plymouth, and their brother chapter out of Cranston, Rhode Island came up and provided free overnight security for us. So that was a great event. I'm glad it's almost over.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, where are we now? Next up, Scott, again, update on legislative issues at MMA Policy Committee?
Yeah, just as we prepare for our annual conference, the committee I'm on, the Policy Committee on Personnel and Labor Relations, we meet once a month at the MMA, and we look at some of the legislative issues that are facing us, and we try to make some recommendations and some do a little bit of legislative reform if we can. And we also, as you know, we work on, as many of the other committees work on, putting forward what we consider best practices for other communities to follow. So we sort of put that together every year and it gets published. So, you know, just some of the things that we were working on this year, obviously retirement reform, one of the bigger things, obviously OPEB reform.
Huge.
Trying to look at a way of funding that and dealing with it that sort of mirrors the way we deal with some other issues as far as paying, as you get in, maybe the newer people would pay at a different rate or get paid out their benefits at a different rate. Different things like that, but looking at a way to make it easier for a local option to get out of civil service if a community cares to do that, and making sure that veteran preference is preserved if they do wish to do something like that. And as far as the best practices go, we were looking at things like municipal officials, towns should have some sort of a human resources director. It may be somebody who's already part of the administration, whether it's an assistant or a town administrator, but there should be some sort of human resource director position going on. There should be encouragement for, believe it or not, one of the big things we talked about is for department heads to have continuing education, and for the staff itself to, for us as the selectmen to encourage such things. So those are just kind of some of the, you'll see a lot more of it when it comes out in the handbook at the end of the year, but just to let you know.
Thank you. Scott, you're up. Chief, your report. It's been a while.
Yeah, sure has. Sure has. So what I did is I went back, I just went to January. You should have all gotten, I believe, the attachments that highlights the log calls and the arrest complaint citations. Anybody have any questions on that stuff? That's just kind of record-keeping stuff. Overdoses. So the good news, we've had 29 overdoses with 2 fatals, and at this time in 2017 we had 40 with 5 fatals.
Wow.
So again, just to kind of, though, to bring it into focus, the more Narcan that's present, and people are able to get Narcan also from like the pharmacies and different places. So sometimes when we're trying to catch those, you won't even have anybody call on an overdose situation. But certainly through education and all of those things, the Plymouth County outreach, which I have in there, which I'm going to talk about, that we do, there's like a whole program to this. There's the enforcement that we still do, and we've been doing a really good job lately in making some significant, drug busts and drug arrests, but also following up and offering services to the families and the individuals who are addicted. That PCO, the Plymouth County Outreach, also secured, and we were awarded down at the International Chiefs Conference in Florida. We got an award recognized as the National Community Policing Award at the conference for the PCO model, which now is being modeled basically across the country now. They're kind of taking what Chief Allen from East Bridgewater and Chief Botieri from Plymouth kind of spearheaded the whole thing and brought everybody together on it. And they also wrote a grant, which we got almost $500,000 in the grant that's going to allow them to hire an administrator, a full-time administrator, and a records keeper and things like that. So pay for recovery coaches, host officer and team member trainings, and also fund a database. So I don't know if you're aware of it, but so if a person from Whitman overdoses in Mattapoisett, we know within real time, 2 to 3 minutes. They enter it and we know, so they don't slip through the cracks. We can catch them. Where before there was no follow-up, you didn't know. Well, now we know, okay. And it works the same for all of the Plymouth County towns. There might be somebody that overdoses from Marshfield and Whitman. They'll know. So that's just a matter of...
You'll be aware of your citizens in the situation.
Exactly. So that we can go and offer them help and try to, obviously you have to try to hit the problem from all ends. Another grant that we're participating in is the Jail Arrest Diversion Grant. It's so it's Whitman, Bridgewater State, Middleborough, and East Bridgewater, and this particular grant addresses mental health.
Excuse me.
We have a clinician that will come out, goes to the different departments. Any mental health calls that we get, there's a follow-up process. The clinician's available. Obviously, in an emergency type thing, we go out, person is, in distress, is, threatening to harm themselves or something, they're gonna get transported over right away. But the follow-up will be when this clinician comes in, similar to what we do with the Plymouth County Outreach. And it's a grant, and the clinician was hired through the grant, so it's a benefit to the police departments. So I thought it was something that we should participate in, and we were able to. So that's something I think we can all agree that mental health is certainly right at the forefront of many of the issues that we deal with, so. And then, the last grant that we, Josh McNeil, Josh was able to secure the grant for the infrastructure of the radios, which is obviously gonna be a big benefit to the town. For police and fire, I know last year we were talking about a sizable amount of money. Obviously, money's a tight issue. For us, we did some testing with the digital end of, 'cause we have some dead spots. So we tested our dead spots, and we had, the digital cleared it up. And departments now like East Bridgewater, Rockland, there's some that are just waiting to go. I know Marshfield's getting ready to go. There's a bunch that are going. It's clearer, and there's more penetration for your signal. So this is going to help us, obviously, with our communications.
One question
which will help
on that,
officer
Chief.
safety.
Right, one question now, the police and fire will be able to communicate with the new digital. What about, is the DPW, they able to, if there's an issue? And
I think
That's
that-
aside from the grant.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
something we
I don't
would
know. I
have to
mean, they
do.
might have to get a couple of radios where they can, I don't know how that works, but.
I would like to comment that what makes this grant amazing is we had so little time to do it. We found out literally days before it had to be submitted, literally. So, in I think 3 days,
wow,
we had the grant in and reviewed, and we were one of the highest
job.
recipients.
good job,
Nice.
yeah. And who put that in,
And as
Josh?
far as the
Yeah,
as
good
far
job.
as the DPW goes, we're gonna have to look at
Yeah,
accommodating their radio system.
Yeah.
It won't be part of the grant.
well, the only situation I have is that
Scott's got an extra
if in fact,
20 grand to
you know,
No.
if there's an accident and you need the DPW down there to throw something like,
Yeah, well, we'll still be able to reach them. We have a radio at the station,
yeah, okay.
an analog, so we'd still be able to communicate with them. We could send a carrier pigeon to it.
Not that big of a town. We'll find them.
Yeah, really loud.
I just want to highlight too, Officer Poirier's arrest, as I'm sure you're aware of, when he arrested Alan Warner, who was wanted in connection with the murder of his wife in Marshfield, which was a great grab by him, you know, his awareness
Right.
of realizing that
Great
it was
police
him. Especially with the manhunt, nobody else was hurt, no other injuries to anybody. We've had several drug arrests, money seized, contraband. You know, it's a constant wave. We're never going to stop it, but at least they know we're out there, and we're going after it. We've had violent felony arrests, weapons taken off the street, firearms. Some officers have also been assaulted. The recap, we've obviously over the summer and everything, we provided traffic control and, you know, the park events, parades, you know, league parades and all that stuff that we do. The dinner was served to the seniors this past Saturday. I went up there to the members of the police department. The Whitman Hanson football team was also up there as well as, you know, members of the Knights of Columbus who served the seniors a nice turkey dinner. Since I heard parking was mentioned here already, so I have been in communication with a resident in town here who has complained about the blocking of sidewalks. Vehicles parked, blocking sidewalks. This particular person also has an ADA issue where they have a wheelchair, and to walk their dog, their pet, they literally have to go out into the middle of the road. So this is something, and I explained to this person, and I'm going to say it here now so everybody can hear it. We really haven't enforced parking on the sidewalks. We just haven't done it. It hasn't been an issue. We haven't done it. Doesn't mean it's right. We just haven't done it. So I had some warning cards similar to the ones we do for the overnight parking printed up, and we've been placing them on vehicles because as I explained to this person, we can't just go out and start ticketing people because, you know, there has to be some sort of communication, you know, in the spirit of, you know, working with our community and for our community. We just don't want to go issuing, you know, civil fines. However, that said, we're doing the warnings, but I will tell you this, if the officers realize, you know, this is the third time they've put a warning on your car,
Yeah.
you may wind up getting the civil fine ahead of time. So, but we're gonna be enforcing that. I know it's a change, but it's the law, and,
This is overnight parking.
no,
or
this is
anytime
blocking, this is
Blocking a
anytime
sidewalk,
somebody's
yeah.
blocking a sidewalk or a crosswalk.
Okay.
People park in a crosswalk, a sidewalk, and they do it all the time, and I know it's the same issue for some people. Well, you know, I don't have any place else to park. Well, you can't park on the sidewalk. I don't know what to tell you. And, you know, when they try to leave a little space, in this person's case, with a wheelchair, they can't get by that little space. So they have to go out into traffic.
Plus where we have kids walking to school.
So it's just a heads up that it's coming. So I'm sure, you know, you may get some calls on that down the road. I also have posted, we threw it up on our Facebook page that the municipal and MBTA police officer exam is coming up March 23rd. If anybody's interested in that, you can go to our Facebook page and it tells you, follow the link, tells you how to sign up and all that. And lastly, I did have a meeting with our liaison for the Finance Committee. Bleak picture would be an optimistic phrase, I think. I don't really know where we're going, but I know that I'm not waiting until, you know, 3 or 4 months from now. I'm trying to already, you know, I've already had a conversation with some members of the department that, you know, it's a very real possibility here that we're looking at layoffs because, you know, in the conversation that I had, it was not good at all. Like, I mean, you know, I don't have some place that I can try to pull $250,000 out of a police budget. There's only one place to take it from, and that's laid off people. I don't want to do that because then you're going to roll everything back.
Right. It's,
You're going to take we're going to have nothing, virtually nothing. We will not belong to any Lex. We won't have detective. We're going to go backwards, not forward. And I know, listen, I know everybody else is, I'm just throwing it out there now because, you know, the sooner we know, and I'd like to know, like yesterday, exactly what the number is, because I've heard all kinds of numbers. From the schools, I've heard 5 to 11. I've heard, you know, we're in 800 to 2 million. So, you know, I think the quickest that we can get to a number that we as department heads can figure on is going to help us. Because I just, you know,
Frank, when's the
I don't wanna wait.
earliest we'd get numbers, what, February?
Well, actually,
Before February.
we have the numbers we need right now. The couple of issues. The schools have projected, when we first prepared a look forward to 2020, a 5% increase in their operating costs. We know that Chapter 70 isn't going up. So that translates into about $1.4 million increase just there. And, you know, we're not talking increases this year.
Right.
We're talking reductions. What exacerbates it is there have been recommendations made not to use free cash for levy expenditures, which include the debt service on the police station because it's in the levy. We have $1.2 million in free cash. Over the last several years, we have used that free cash each year to pay that debt. That debt this year, I believe, is $836,000. So if we pay the debt on the police station and town hall using free cash, there's $400 left.
Right.
for other expenditures, and they're all capital in nature. Our growth this year, our combined growth in budget is around $900,000. So it's easy to see the math. I mean, we have, I'm not going to say we've ramped up, but we've increased services over the years, and that comes at a price. The most notable increase was last year when we did an override to increase manpower
Right.
for fire and emergency services. And each budget has built-in inflation as you go from year to year because you've contracted raises. You have, I haven't been able to figure out how to get our insurance company to charge us less each year. We have a built-in escalator in the county retirement costs because they project to be funded by 2029. I don't even want to talk about OPEB, the 140 a year we're spending on it is a far cry from the 12 to 13 million liability that exists. So when you start putting these things together, and just generally, costs are increasing. I'm sure Scott is seeing it in his expense line when he has to replace even things like Narcan and expendable service materials that they use. Fire, they've got to equip the ambulances, and boy, you talk about a lot of money. But those are quality of life issues. Public safety is something that's very important to people. The administrative operations in the town hall are minimal. Most departments have a department head and 1 or 2 employees.
But am I right in I, you know, so for the department, to run the town of Whitman, minus the schools, it's like 30% of the budget, and the school's 70% of the budget.
Pretty close.
66 to 70%.
Pretty
Well, only if you add in the chapter 70 money.
Yeah.
On a straight budget basis, what are the schools this year? 12
million?
million?
It's about 36%, right?
Yeah, it's oh, it's right here.
13 million, right? Most of it is.
We pay probably 45% to all education because, you know, you have to remember we have 3 schools there.
Right.
We have Whitman Hanson, we have South Shore Voc, and we have Norfolk Aggie. And we tend to forget those other 2, but they're expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hey, you know, we all have kids going to school, and I get that. And, you know, I don't have an issue with that, but I keep hearing this word transparency. You actually vote for my salary, along with the deputy chiefs and everybody's. So, like, are we gonna get a breakdown from the schools, like at least on each individual school? Maybe their administrative expenses, occupancy, and things like that? Because, I mean, I think at a minimum, those are things that we should know. I mean, if you know what's going on in what police, fire, or town hall is spending, how can you not know what's going on in those other buildings?
Well,
Doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, actually, when you go to the budget review, and I think, Randy, if you go to the budget review for Whitman and Hanson, they have it like on a Saturday, you'll get a book, and you will look at every school and every different person.
Well, it
and all the
didn't work that
departments.
way this year.
They're not gonna do it again?
They reorganized everything.
Oh.
We had a meeting, Scott's committee, 2 weeks ago, and we had the superintendent and the director of business services here. And one of the comments I made to them was that in order for people to understand, we need to see a cost center approach. I don't want to know across the region how many 6th graders and what the teacher allotment is. I'd like to see it by school. You know, what's it costing to run
Right.
Yeah.
Duval? What's it costing to run Conley? What's it costing to run the middle school? And separate that from the administrative center to get a better understanding.
Well, they used to do that. Remember we used to go to the budget meeting?
Yeah, This year, it was a very different book.
And this is one of the issues I had with the new regional agreement, is that there was a language change in there.
Requiring less.
Requiring less of the school committee to provide to the towns. And it could pose a problem. You're not going to be able to provide that oversight that I think the people in town are asking for. You know, you always hear about that, you know, but what are the numbers? Well, I would like to be able to provide them to the taxpayers.
Frank, can we request them?
Yes.
Let's request them.
Ultimately, the schools are responsible to the town,
Right.
just as the selectmen are and just as the other departments are. And it doesn't make sense not to give people what they're looking for, because if you want someone's support, they need to understand why you're asking for it. The devil is in the details. And the people that are most vocal about this are people who want to see the details. They want to understand. You know, I understand that costs go up. I mean, look at our tax bills this year. And next year, they're going to be higher. But people have a right to know why. They have the right to know where it's going. And we need to do a better job of providing that information in a more readily available format. You know, we've had this discussion, and I've said many times, anyone who wants information is welcome to it, and we will respond to any request for information. I have had maybe 10 or 11 people in the last 2 years come into the office and say, can you explain this to me? And if they're interested enough to ask, then I have an obligation to answer it. So when we started looking at the issue of best practices, there should be a better way for people to get that information. We should have a consolidated document that's available on the web that anyone can look at and say, okay. And that's what we're working
It's
toward.
out there.
That's
It's out
what,
there,
that's
but
what those 2 grants were for.
It's a time commitment.
Yes, it is.
But it is out there, and it would be great, but it's gonna be at least the time commitment that is difficult at best right now for you guys to
Well,
commit to.
yeah, well, each school, each department head in each school, and the principal and vice principal, they have to send out their budget to the school committee by what they need, department by department. But they just, if they're giving us just the totals and not breaking it down,
Yeah.
they used to break it right down.
But I got a sense when we met with them in the budget group, and we're
That
gonna
they're
meet again
prepared to
soon,
do that.
I think they do intend to do that, and I think
Good.
they want to do that. You've got a new superintendent.
Right.
And I think that he is going
Thank you,
to
Chief.
be more than willing to be forthcoming with that, but he does have a board that he has to
Right.
answer to.
Right.
We had members of that board there that also seem to be in agreement. So I think that we just have to get back into that group and say, listen, we need it. They understood the predicament that we're in. They know that they're in it. There's
in it
no,
with us.
yeah, we have to be in
I
it together,
actually-
and they do totally get it.
I actually had a meeting scheduled with the superintendent that on my end fell through. So I will probably next week be meeting with him
Yeah.
and probably the assistant
Well,
superintendent.
the school committee meets the second Wednesday of the month, so, and they have open session, so you can get up and introduce yourself
Oh, yeah.
and tell them what you think.
They know me, Dan, I've been there.
Yeah, whatever, okay,
One thing that
Who's
I'd
that guy
like,
from Whitman?
yeah.
one thing I'd like to add to this is if we're holding all our town departments to this kind of scrutiny and asking for these deductions in how they operate, we should be holding them to the same standard
Standard,
that
yeah.
we're holding all the other departments. Now, I understand that they're their own island, but that doesn't mean we have to agree with what they propose, because it can get voted down.
Right. You have to remember that our input in the budget process for the schools is how we respond to them when we see the numbers and when we go to meetings. Ultimately, the town has very little control over that final product, because our ability as a community to address the school budget is to simply vote it up or vote it down. When we go into town meeting on May 6th, is it?
Or whatever it is, yeah, it's Monday.
Anyone can make a motion to increase or decrease any budget line in Article 2. And after a discussion and a vote, that's what it is. As far as the school goes, we don't have the option of addressing budget lines. We can only address the total number.
Right.
So it's in Whitman Hanson's interest
Right.
to be very transparent and candid about it, because that's going to determine whether or not the budget is voted up or down.
And I think that they have to remember that we were very kind to them in that last budget, last year. And that there could be a lot of ill will in this town going forward if these town departments get ruined and they're just going merrily on their way.
Well, remember, they're all part of us. We can't,
Right.
it can't be an us and them.
Right.
But there has to be an understanding among all of us too, that if we're able to present a sound, well thought out, well justified budget, then it's up to town meeting to say yes or no. If they say yes, we all benefit from it. If they say no,
We all go.
we all
through.
lose.
Right.
There's no other way this time.
Right.
Okay. All right, enough, we beat that to death, huh? It's not on the agenda, but I had an MPO meeting today, and I just wanted to inform the town that the Route 1827 and 1814 project was bid out today. And of course, I don't know who the contractor was who got the bid, but they will be contacting the town and the town departments, and they'll have a pre-project meeting. So the police, the fire, the DPW, and the town hall, whoever has participation that it's needed in this project will be notified where the meeting is, when it is, and what things will start, and what needs to be, what the town needs to do. And Jason's did his project. So that's what I
Long
have.
overdue.
Huh?
Long overdue.
Oh, yeah. So, and, you know, and chances are it's gonna be starting this spring.
Probably the day before Christmas.
Yeah.
We'll do
No,
both at
this
the same time.
Oh,
We'll take a big hole and then stop
Yeah.
until spring.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is policies and procedures, the Selectman Handbook. Lisa, is this yours or Frank, yours?
Lisa did the legwork on it, and it's a draft.
Okay?
This is an opportunity to look at it and see what we like, what we don't like, what perhaps should be in there that isn't. I don't know if everyone's
Should be.
prepared
Yeah.
to do this now, or if you'd like to have time to review it and
How to review it?
make comments. I don't know if everyone's
So I
had
think
that
it'd be nice to
opportunity.
have the chairman here for that.
Yeah. Be nice
I'd
to
be
have
ready
the
to
chairman
start
here.
slicing.
Well, Randy's got some.
Yeah, I have a few comments, but I think, yeah, like you say,
I
I'm
think-
good to mull it over for a bit and wait.
Right, I
Pass
think-
over to a full board.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, very good. Under new business, act on the request of the Whitman
Do you
Hanson
need a
Regional School Committee.
Motion for that, Dan, or
What?
do we need to make a motion to pass that over, or?
Yeah, probably, that's
Do we
probably.
need a motion for that, Frank? Huh?
You can simply table it and bring it
Table,
forward at
motion
the
to
next
table it?
meeting.
Motion
So we have a
table.
full board?
Second.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Randy, on that. I didn't think we need one, but. Under new business,
We're following an agenda.
act on the request of Whitman Hanson Regional School, Whitman Hanson High School, chapter of Best Buddies to hold the Best Buddies 5K race, road race, and a 1 mile fun run walk on April 27, 2019 at 10 a.m. in accordance with the route outlined in the letter dated October 19, 2018.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any issues?
Chief, okay with?
Chief,
Chief,
Yeah,
chief,
yeah,
both chiefs?
ready to walk and run?
Deb does a great job.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Should make a motion first.
Yeah. Motion,
Yeah, we did.
second.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
I missed that.
Yeah.
Act on,
Thank you.
act on the resignation of Rebecca Intel from the position of auxiliary special police officer effective July 26, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Pretty late. All in favor? Aye. I know, it's July. Act on the resignation of Julius Rosario from the position of Auxiliary Special Police Officer, effective November 1st, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Take action to rescind the Class 2 auto dealer's license for Route 27 Car Care Center Auto Sales, Anthony Sergio, on the premise located at 835 Temple Street, as this business no longer is operating.
So moved.
Your second. Any discussion?
The reason says it all.
Yeah, did.
He's gone, he's gone.
There's two
Gone.
there.
Oh, okay.
Gee, we missed an auto dealer. All in favor?
Aye.
Act to declare 1 generator, 4 holder tractors, various attachments as outlined in the email dated November 11th, 2018, from the DPW Superintendent Bruce Martin, as surplus materials, and authorize the CPO to dispose of said surplus materials by public auction. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Act to declare self-contained breathing apparatus, air cylinders, self-contained breathing apparatuses, masks, as outlined in a memo dated November 8th, 2018, from Chief Greno, as surplus material, and allow the chief to dispose of said equipment which is damaged and no longer useful and donate it to any remaining useful equipment, any of the remaining useful equipment to other fire departments.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Act on the request of Southeastern Philharmonic Orchestra to conduct a free concert on Sunday, April 28th, 2019, at 2 o'clock.
So moved.
Here's a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Just one thing, just to remind people that they're also having a free Christmas concert on Sunday, December 2nd at 2:30. Same orchestra. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Act on the request of Chief Benton to call for an assessment center for the purpose of Chief of Police and Deputy Chief of Police. Scott, are you
Okay.
telling us you're planning on retiring?
Thank you. Well, I won't go that far right now, but I will tell you that a succession plan should begin long before somebody is going to go. So I think that when you look back, like the union has an exam every even fiscal year, sergeant and lieutenant. Whether you need one or you don't, you have a list because you don't know what's going to happen. You should do the same thing for the 2 most critical positions, which are your management positions in the department.
Okay.
So I did a little, I reached out to get some proposals, and and do a combination, because we don't have as big a department that you need to do separate ones. There are vendors that will do a chief and a deputy chief's assessment, and you'll get a list for each one. The list is good for 2 years. I can tell you that you will use this list. That I will tell you. So it will not expire before you use it. I think that, you know, when you put things off, and I've seen, you know, I've been here now since 1986, and if you wait to fill these things, it causes turmoil, it causes jockeying for position, it causes rumor, speculation, innuendo, and all things that are negative to the morale and to the people within the police department that do not need to and should not be subjected to that. They don't deserve that. They should know, okay, you know, just like there's a list for a sergeant or a lieutenant, they should know, you know what, there's a list. They're going to pick somebody from the list. Whoever's picked from the list is up to you people.
Right.
But there should be a list.
Okay. I talked to Carl about this. He likes to take it under advisement. We can discuss it further down the line whether or not we want to do this or not. But I think it's a good suggestion. But I guess it's our decision who we decide, but at least we should know who we can decide, who we can pick from.
Right.
agree to that.
It's
So-
not, despite popular belief, I know I've heard, I'm not trying to pre-plan
Right.
anything for anybody. You people pick
Yeah.
who is going to be the person.
Right,
It's my responsibility to tell you that you need to have a list.
okay.
If somebody walks out and then you say, by the time you get a list going and everything, you're a year out, now you have somebody in there provisionally and all this turmoil and all that stuff's going, that's a disservice.
We've run into that
It's
situation
a disservice
before.
to the people there and to the citizens.
Right, I know where
So-
you're coming from. We ran into that situation before.
Right.
Okay.
Want a motion?
Do we,
Well, we gotta do something, we have to act on it.
Yep.
okay, a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Chief Benton's request for an assessment center.
Second.
Okay, discussion. What's this gonna cost, Frank? We're talking about money? And,
Chief mentioned he had some proposals. I haven't seen them. I
yeah,
don't know.
I guess, Chief, I mean, you're saying, 2 years out, this would be good for like 2 years, something like that. I mean, if you're not planning on retiring for another year and a half, 2 years, then would be 2 years too early. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm wondering, I mean, if you say to us, okay, I'm looking to possibly retire in 2021 or 2020, we'll say, right?
I'm not going to nail down a date for you,
No, no,
Mr.
no, 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 no,
Salvucci,
about date.
but I don't really see me being here much past July of next year. How's that?
Really?
Does that help you a little bit? I'm not up here as an exercise in just trying to
Okay.
talk. This is something that I think you need to do for the police department.
Okay.
This is something that I don't know why sometimes there's reluctance in moving forward, or
We don't wanna
people are
lose you.
worried about a
Maybe we don't want to lose you.
a climate. Oh, believe me, there's people that'll probably pay you to have me leave. Don't worry about that.
Can I ask a question also?
You know,
Were you planning on taking this out of your existing budget, and is it
yeah,
something
yeah,
you
I
have
can
money
take it
for?
out. I can take it out of expense. I mean, I don't. For the police department. There has to be a direction. This
Right.
isn't a convenience store.
And guys need time to study for this. So you can't, if he leaves 6 months, guys are studying for these things 8 or 9 months. So now, are you gonna wait until 6 months
Yeah,
before he
no,
goes?
I know, because we ran into this situation before,
And it was
where we had
bad.
an interim chief, and
And you ran into problems.
Yeah.
So I think we're trying to get in front of this
be
one.
proactive. Yeah, okay.
I think that, the department's in great shape. There's a great group of people over there, and I just would hate to see, one thing like this can cause all kinds of, like I said, there's jockey of a position, who's gonna do what do you mean, I don't know. You can eliminate all that by saying we have a list.
Okay.
Whoever the person is, at least they know it's somebody on this
Right.
list.
Yeah.
The selectmen are gonna decide, but at least you have a list, and and the people know the names that are on the list. Just like they know who's on the list for sergeant right
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
They know who the names are. They don't know who it's gonna be, but they know who the names are.
Okay. There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You got it. Yep. Set December meetings. Anybody have any preferences? We're gonna have one meeting, Frank, in December, or?
Boards,
The 4th and the 18th would be logical ones.
Agreed.
Agreed? 4th and 18th? Is that
Yeah.
good for everybody?
Yeah, and I do think we need to.
Yep.
The 25th is out.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can't do the 25th.
I mean, 7, we're all probably tired.
can do Christmas.
Families by then, right?
How about Christmas Day? Okay, old business. Set solid waste fee for fiscal year 20. Frank, I know that we put this, we tabled this because I requested that we'd look into possibly giving a senior discount for solid waste.
yep.
Have you come up with any numbers, whether good or bad? Whether it can be done?
Well, anything can be done.
I know that, but I mean, how much it's gonna, what's it gonna cost, where we're in such a budget?
Meredith, what do we have, 200,
No, currently they get 597.
597. So that's
Say 600.
$25,000.
How much?
If you give a $25 discount to seniors, it's 26,000 and change. out of a $1.1 million budget.
Yes,
I have, if we gave a $25 discount to the same taxpayers, 597 that are receiving the water discount, it's approximately $14,925.
How is that possible?
$25,
How many?
597.
Yeah.
Check my, just,
A little shy of 15.
Times 25, yeah. Yeah.
okay.
so being under 15,000, is it something that we want to do?
Now, well, that's a policy decision based on whether or not you feel, we're looking at an increase in the rate for trash. There's no
Right.
way around that.
Right.
So the question is whether you want to have a program to ameliorate the impact on seniors who may have financial.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we're going up $35 on the tax, on the trash fee. If we give a $25 tax, senior citizen tax rebate abatement, so theirs goes up $10. So, I mean, it helps them where, again, they're on fixed income. They probably throw less away, because if we did go as pay-as-you-throw, they probably would have got the smaller bag. I do understand there are some families there that live in Whitman that throw very little trash away too, because they have no children, you know, stuff like that, but they're not on a fixed income. Most seniors are on a fixed income.
Two comments.
Go ahead.
I do need to correct the agenda. It says FY20. The
Oh.
trash fee is being voted for FY19.
Okay,
So I think one of the discussions was whether or not we could set a trash fee at $285 and then introduce in the following fiscal year
an abatement, okay.
an abatement, or if you want that abatement to coincide with the current fiscal year.
When are the trash fees going out?
Yeah,
It may cause some
I think it has to be. the
administrative
following
difficulties if
fiscal
we
year.
So it would have to be for
impose
2020?
it now.
Yeah. Okay. As long as we set the policy.
No, I agree.
How much wiggle room was built into that 285? Is it tight? Is it a real?
Well, based on everything we know,
Yeah.
and based on our estimates, which are projected from what we're paying right now, there's about maybe a $5,000 or $6,000 leeway. However, that all changes based on how people dispose
Right.
of solid waste, how many people recycle, whether or not the recycling market improves, because it can't be any worse.
Because this number isn't a fixed cost.
Correct.
It's sliding,
Yeah,
right?
it's
So
fluid.
The tonnage.
you know, we're
Gas prices go up.
We're introducing a program December 1st for recycling
Slowly.
Textile.
materials, textiles, and small items that are not normally recycled. Now, that will take, if that's effective, will take some of the disposal costs away from the tipping fees, which would reduce our total expenses. I don't think, if you're talking $15,000, we're not betting the farm on it. And there's a good possibility that improved solid waste management will pay for itself. It comes down to a policy, whether or not you want to offer. We offer a $20
Water and sewer,
water and
but it's
sewer
billed twice a year.
deduction, twice a year for people who pay for sewer and water. And I guess there's some argument for offering that same service for trash.
Yeah, for seniors, yeah. Just happened to be one senior in the group.
You might have to abstain, Dan.
Just,
I might abstain, yeah.
just while we're on the subject,
I mean, 3 of us at this table will benefit from that.
the DPW posted on their Facebook page.
Oh, yes, I saw
believe,
that. I
a
watched
link
it.
to a video that shows how your recyclables are processed. And it's a good video to,
The single stream process?
yeah.
Yeah.
And how it goes about, and the fact that the value of recyclables has gone way down. And, but it shows you exactly what
process
how it
is,
goes.
Well,
So
and part
something
of
you
that
should-
is the fact that it's single stream. Recycle becomes a little more valuable when you can segregate the products, but then it's more costly to collect.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And you have alternate
Yeah,
weeks.
unless
It's
you're-
glass this week. and-
Unless we're collecting it at a location and we have
Right,
our
unless
own
we have a
transfer
transfer station.
Yeah, but
We
then
have-
we're paying tipping and hauling fees, or we're hiring, or
Right.
we're buying containers.
Right.
It's not an
I'm not
inexpensive
suggesting we
operation,
get
but-
back in that business.
Hanson's running into a problem now because of that.
Well, we are in Duxbury too.
Yeah.
It's very expensive for us
Yeah.
to move our own stuff.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so that being said, Frank, so the motion would have to be whether or not we want to.
I think we should do 2 motions. I think the first motion should be to set the trash fee, and then perhaps a second motion to offer a senior discount
Fiscal year
for fiscal year 20.
20. for the
2020?
senior discount. And fiscal year 19, we're sitting the trash fee.
Correct.
I'll motion that we set the trash fee for fiscal year 19 at
285.
$285.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'll motion that, starting in fiscal year 20, we offer a discount to seniors 65 and over at a rate of
I think it was 25 everybody
25?
talked about.
$25
And
off.
that's for seniors who live in houses that, the houses are
They
in their name,
have to be
right?
owner occupied,
Right,
they have to be owner occupied over 65, and they have to own the property.
right.
I would like to,
That'll be something that they'll have to
I'd like to add
provide
something to that.
documentation of that.
Right.
And they will apply to the DPW for that.
I think that if the trash abatements are run through the assessor's office, that these should be too.
We're discussing that right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense
Yeah.
for the assessor to handle trash. The statutory authority for trash is the Public Works Department.
Don't they do the
It's covered in the Acts of
abatements on the
48.
trash, though? when
And
the-
they used to do the abatements.
Yeah, yeah.
What's happened is we're using the billing system that the assessors use to process property abatements. There's no reason that we can't set up an abatement process through SoftWrite that allows the DPW to create the abatement packets. They're all done through the collector. When abatements are processed, they're prepared in a packet. They're sent to the accountant, they're sent to the collector treasurer, who reviews it and then accepts the packet. So it really isn't something
So, but
that the assessors need to be involved in.
we're merely putting this forward as policy, though. I think the mechanics of it and
Have to
how
be
it's
worked
done
out,
can
yeah.
be worked
Okay,
out
yeah.
administratively.
I just, to me,
But-
it seemed like it should be, the two should be together. The abatements for the
Well,
trash
we have
and the-
just set up a process whereby the DPW will be creating and maintaining the trash list. They will also
Well, they do
be
water and sewer.
updating that trash list on SoftWrite.
Yeah.
So I don't see any reason why they wouldn't also do the abatement.
If software can do it, yeah.
Well, it is their department. So I get that.
But that's mechanics, we can work that out.
Plus, it gives us a nice tracking system with them, and they
Right.
know.
And you get a year to sell your father your place.
Trash is included in my homeowner's.
I know. I had to say that. All right, any further discussion on this?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we need to go, that's it, right? Yeah, we need to go into executive session in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiation with
We skipped over
non-union
Lisa?
personnel.
Oh,
Oh, no, sorry, you're right, I apologize. One other item I had it checked off, I thought Frank talked about it. One other old business, Assistant Town Administrator, we'll talk about textile recycling update. I'm very sorry, Lisa.
We didn't mean to call you old business.
Yes.
I just touched on it.
He
Lisa's
touched
gonna
on
give
it,
you
right, and I
details.
said, well,
Touched
then
on
he
it, but
covered for
we
it.
need to talk just a little bit about it.
Yeah.
We are kicking off our townwide textile recycle program on actually December 3rd, that's Monday. That's the date that Simple Recycling will start traveling around the town and picking up the pink recycle bags for textiles. Actually, this applies to waste management customers, residents who have waste management pick up their trash. This does not apply to anyone who does not have waste management pick up their trash. Starting next week, our residents will receive pink bags in the mail, as well as a postcard.
We already received that postcard.
Actually, the postcards that most of us received yesterday and today were incorrect.
Oh.
There was a typo on it that said it was going to be a bi-weekly schedule. It's actually going to be a weekly pickup instead of a bi-weekly. So they do apologize for that
So will there be new
typo.
postcards being sent out?
There will be new information, yes, sent out with the pink bags that they'll receive. So basically what will happen, and there's also within Town Hall, DPW, the library, and Council on Aging, there's brochures that folks can pick up that will give a little bit more information on the type of items that they will be collecting every week, the type of items they can put in these pink bags. And basically how it will work, they will put the pink bags out next to their blue recycle bins. The company Simple Recycling will come by, pick up those bags. They will replace the bags with new bags. They are going to tie them onto the blue recycle bins. That way these bags won't blow all over the neighborhoods. And they'll use those bags for the next
They get
week.
ripped off by the arm.
Right.
Yeah, they better come after.
This is a fantastic
perfect.
program that is going to allow for folks to kind of dispose of textiles that you wouldn't think normally that you could put in the recycle bins. Old slippers, pillows, sheets, blankets that
clothes,
dog's been
things
sleeping
like
on
that,
for years, caps, little T-shirts, undergarments. So many things, shoes, old raggy handbags, all those type of items they are going to collect. There's no cost to the town. There's going to be no cost added to your waste management, no separate bills. The benefits to this, it's going to reduce our weight. As Frank mentioned, we are billed on our tonnage. The landfills, the fees go up. We're billed on our tonnage. This is going to reduce our weight. If you've ever picked up a bag full of old clothes, it weighs a lot. So we're going to get all this weight out of our trash. Benefits that way, and hopefully it'll keep our trash bills from going up in the future. And actually, they will pay us a little fee based on the tonnage that they collect for the town.
So they will be monitoring how much they pick up, and they'll give you a
Yes,
report on, that'd be interesting.
right, right.
Now, do we have to call them that we
Probably
have that out
slightly
there?
higher than the
Nope,
Texas
you don't
inmate
need to
phone
call.
system.
This is going to be done, they follow the same route that Waste Management. So if your trash is collected on Monday, put your bags out on Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, they're going to follow the same
So they just follow
schedule.
the truck, and if
They
there's
just
there
follow
something,
the
they'll
trucks
pick it up.
around, yeah, and
Well,
but they may be in the morning or in the
hopefully they'll be there before
afternoon.
the truck gets there.
Yeah,
They'll be there, they will have a van assigned to each route,
yeah,
and they'll drive and pick up every bag they see.
okay. Sounds like
That's
a
a
plan.
great idea.
Yeah.
So this is a great program. Again, kickoff is the 3rd. Again, you can pick up the pamphlets in all of our town buildings, library, Council on Aging, DPW, here at the town hall. If you have any questions, you can give us a call here in the selectman's office, or there is a phone number on the postcard you can call as well.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
I apologize for almost skipping over you. Okay, that finally being said, we need a motion to go into executive session with accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, and 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on bargaining or litigation position on the public body, the chair so declares. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
We'll be coming into open session to adjourn only. Thank you.